Hiya all my Ali Pallies, and thank you for joining me today. Just wanted to say before I start that I will be putting timestamps in the description bar after I upload this video, because I do go into quite a lot of depth, as I often do on a second impression, to give you all an update. But I'm aware that you may not want to sit through all of that, and you may want to skip to certain sections. So, do have a look at the timestamps if you can't sit through the whole video. Okay. Wow, so many views. I really didn't realise that I was going to be the first up, because there were so many bloggers in the audience of that thing that I just wanted to get it to you as quickly as possible, because I was enthusiastic. So I woke up to so many comments. Now, if I haven't, I'm going to get into this and an update and explain why I didn't post it last night. But just wanted to say thank you for all your comments. If I haven't answered you yet, don't worry, I'm going to be answering each and every comment. I always do. And if you are a fellow YouTube creator and you think I've ignored you, I haven't. There is a stupid thing on YouTube. I don't understand it. It's not very conducive to us supporting one another. But if you put a message in my comments box or in any comment box that says we should support one another, YouTube in their wisdom screen that out and put it in your possible spam folder, and you don't get notified of it. So if you are a fellow YouTube creator and you sent me a comment and it looks like I've ignored you, I haven't. I've just got to go through a spam folder to find you, because I'm not aware of your comment and it hasn't posted it there. So as I say, it's crazy. It doesn't, you would think that they'd want us to support one another, but they don't. So they don't want you to be pestered by other YouTubers, I suppose, but it just seems a bit daft to me. I want to support you all as you've supported me. So anyway, let's get to this update. So last night what happened was, I've had some treatment. I won't go into it. In the last few days been quite painful, and I keep falling asleep at really random silly times and then being wide awake in the middle of the night. So basically my body's response to pain, basically. So I fell asleep and I woke up in my makeup 12 hours after application, and it was too late because my family were in bed. It was too late. We're in a tiny flat, they'd hear me, to do a video, and it was kind of in the middle of the night. So what I did is I posted, I took some silent video so that you could see it, and I took some photographs. I'm just going to show you the silent video first, and then I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are. Okay, so my face looked a little bit shiny, but you need to bear in mind, this was 12 hours after application. I'd fallen asleep on the sofa right under the window, and I have got hay fever. So my eyes had been constantly streaming because I was getting all the pollen from the trees outside. The foundation hadn't budged. It hadn't budged. And even where I got the oily areas around my nose, the foundation hadn't moved. So if I'd been awake and I'd powdered up, it would have stayed in place. Now that was after 12 hours. I know that before I fell asleep, it was looking as good as new. Really was. And where my eyes were streaming, I showed you that video so that you could see it was just rolling over the foundation. All right, now let's get on to this match. And you know, there were lots of comments, I knew there would be, about the shade match, so I want to address that now. Okay, so you saw me putting on this foundation and it looked very yellow. Now, just to let you know that I was matched in the venue by a makeup artist for Charlotte Tilbury. This often happens to me because I am half Indian, so I kind of look Mediterranean, kind of half Indian. So I've got olive, but I'm not, you know, there's a spectrum. As I was saying to a few of you, there is a spectrum. Most people aren't completely neutral or completely warm. They're somewhere in between. And that varies quite a lot with me during the year because I tan very easily. So during the summer, I look a lot warmer. And then during the winter, I look a lot cooler. And I do fluctuate. That is sort of part of being mixed race. And a lot of people have got these complex complexions. But what I found interesting about this, because I thought, I often get matched to warm undertone and then look yellow. And Charlotte said that, didn't she, in her speech? And I was nodding my head going, yeah, I get yellow looking foundations, and it looked yellow on me. And there wasn't any actual daylight in the venue either. There was only windows at the front of the store, and the rest of it was all bright lights, which probably didn't help. However, this shade did adjust big time. And because I wanted you to see this, what I did when I woke up middle of the night is I thought, I'm going to take half of it off my face because I want to see the difference between my skin tone and the foundation that is left, to see whether it has just adjusted or my eye has just adjusted to, you know, you never know whether you just adjust your eyes to thinking, oh, that looks okay because it's all now covered. So I did that, and I'm going to post that picture here. Okay, please excuse the background noise. We live in a very tiny flat. I'm shortly about to move, and my son's playing with his friends, so I really hope it doesn't disturb you too much. But I can't tell him to not talk to his friends. Anyway, so I do tell him to keep it down though. So I think you can see from that photograph that it really had oxidized and it had gone a lot lighter to the difference. So this side of my face, I don't know if I'm pointing to the right side, but as you're looking at the photograph, it is the right side that still has the foundation on, and the left side I've taken the makeup off on. The difference was barely noticeable once it had dried down and settled into my skin. And it's really interesting because I did look at Really Ree's review this morning, and they had been telling her to go for a darker shade than she normally goes for, which she said about shade 3, and I found that really interesting. So this is going to be a little bit of playing around to get your shade, because when you first put it on, you're going to go, uh-oh, that's too dark. They are definitely going to oxidize and get lighter. So you need to factor that into your decision making about shades. And I do think that therefore you do need to play a lot, and you need to get somewhere where you can get hold of samples, try it on your skin and let it actually dry down before you make a decision about your foundation, because the difference was remarkable. Once I went to take it off, it wasn't anywhere near as yellow as it was. Now I think I may get, when it's out, I'm going to get a neutral, 7.5 neutral, to see what that looks like on my skin. I suspect that what I'll end up doing is mixing neutral and warm, because I'm on that spectrum where I have warm, but it's not as warm as that foundation. I think if I do that, I'm going to be spot on. But bear in mind, there's 44 shades. Okay, so you should be able to find a match. And I'm actually quite happy now with the colour, even though I thought, oh. Now also, I just wanted to add one other thing before I get on and put this foundation on again. And now, yeah, I'll tell you. So Charlotte had been saying full coverage, full coverage, full coverage, full coverage. And I picked up what I thought was a suitable amount of foundation for full coverage. But as you could see, when I put it on, I was like, whoa. It really was like, in terms of coverage, it's very similar. Not in formula, but in coverage. It's very like Faux Filter by Huda Beauty. So you really need to start lightly. I actually went in too much because it really was genuinely a first impression, and I kind of went there and you could see I was actually trying to move it around because I put too much on. Now that I've used it once, I intend to adjust the way that I put it on, and I've put on plenty of magic cream. I've put on plenty of her eye cream because it does actually stop your nose if you were oily like me in the middle. It really does. I know 12 hours later sleeping under a window, that's a little bit extreme, but it really does do that. But if you have got very dry under eyes, which I do because of my watery eyes, you do need to moisture a lot under there, otherwise it may accentuate lines because of the dryness. It's not that it sits in lines, but because it dries down quite a bit more than our other foundations, you need to get into the habit of using a little bit more moisturizer underneath. Now I'm going to be applying it normally as I did yesterday, but obviously adjusting the way I put it on. But over the next few days I'm going to apply it with Flawless Filter. I'm also going to do an application where I apply it and mix it in to, I might mix it in with Magic Cream on one day, and another day I'd like to mix it in with Unisex Healthy Glow. I'm going to really play around with it and do as many videos for you guys as possible, okay? Because I'm just so overwhelmed by all the love and comments I've got from you. I really want to help you to decide how you want to use this for when it comes out in August. So I hope you do stick with me, and let's get going. I'm just going to put some eye drops in to stop my eyes watering, and then I will get on with applying this foundation. Okay, a few of you said, well, a couple of you I think said you'd like to see how it is applied with a beauty blender. So I've got my Real Techniques beauty blender, which I have dampened, and I'm also going to spray my face because of my sensitivity to pollen right now. This really soothes your face. It's called Tilbury by La Roche-Posay, and it's a really good makeup setting spray, but it also is very good for prepping your face. If you're a little bit sensitive, it just stops that itchiness around my eyes. So, and it will make my face slightly damp for putting my foundation on. Oh, it's so soothing. It really is. Okay, so now we're going to go in with this foundation. And now I've got a little bit more of an idea about what sort of amounts to use. I believe you now, Charlotte. This is full coverage. So I'm just going to take some on a damp beauty blender, and I'm going to start patting it onto my skin, moving from the inside out. So this foundation is going to last quite some time. Now, do you see, now that I'm applying a lighter layer, I can build on it. But as it starts to dry down, and it does dry down a lot quicker than our other foundations, so it is very good to use a damp beauty blender or a damp brush, because then it won't, you know, you don't want it to be drying down before you've had a chance to blend it in. I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to do this half of my face so that you can see it adjusting. That would be helpful, I think. So that you can see how it starts to get lighter as it oxidizes on the skin, and it really does. So I'll put some over my eyelids and underneath. So you can see it's looking a bit too yellow, but as it starts to dry down, I'm probably not letting it dry down at the moment. It is going to get lighter. So I've just got up to there on my nose, and that's good actually, because my eyes started to water again. So I'm going to just leave that in for a minute to settle in, and I'm going to come back to you so that you can see that it does actually start to adjust the colour. Let me just blend that bit in. I want to be able to blend it in when I do the other half of my face. I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay, I'm back. Can you see? It's still a little bit yellow, but it's not looking as yellow now it's dried down at all. In fact, it's looking beautiful, and there's still a glow. That is what I love about this. Even though it's a matte, semi-matte coverage and full coverage, you can still see a beautiful glow to the skin. And I think you can see now that actually the match isn't that bad. I will be getting neutral, definitely, to try. And as soon as it's out, like you guys, I've now got to wait. But as soon as it's out, I will be getting neutral to try as well. But I think that this is fine. Now, I am going to give you another little beauty hack. So if you do get a foundation, now this isn't my hack, I can't claim credit for this, but it is a hack that I have used so much, and if you've been following me for some time, you will have heard this. It's a hack from Pixi Woo, Sam Chapman. Her daughter has got quite an olive skin tone, but like me, she's mixed in her race, like a lot of us are, and warm undertone foundations do sometimes look a bit too yellow on her. And she was doing her daughter up, and she introduced this hack, and when I met her, I told her that it really had been a wonderful hack to use. So I'm going to show you what it is, and it's to do with how you set your foundation, and you adjust the tone to take some of the yellow away. And I'm going to show you how it works, because it's really brilliant way to do it. I'm just going to put a little bit more around my eyes, because my eyes are looking like pink too, because of the yellow coming through in the foundation. I look like I've got two pink eyes in the middle because of the pink that's been taken out of my complexion. Get that under my nose done.
None of my weapons are in my inventory. Oh, Jackato on the move.
So, just making sure I blended it in to the sides, and I'm going to take it down. Hold on, sorry about that. Just telling them to watch their mouths. So I'm just putting some down here, and what I haven't managed to do, I am always paler on my chest, so the difference is going to look a lot more on my chest, and this eye's still looking quite pink in comparison, but I will do the rest with colour corrector. Okay, so let's do the colour corrector, and then I'm going to use a different powder to set this foundation. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to use the colour corrector. Now I'm probably going to pick up shade 2 in this. This isn't too dark. I think she picked the right shade for me, because the shade 2 is far too light in terms of colour correction, and I've used a colour corrector before that's too light and it just doesn't work. However, I think I might like to mix them, so I probably will be picking up a shade 2, which is sort of a lighter peach when they come out. But I'm just going to dab some of this under my eyes.
Where are you, Lloyd? I see you.
I don't know if you've ever seen those tutorials on Instagram where people put orange and red lipstick under their eyes, but it kind of reminds me a bit of this, but it doesn't feel like lipstick. It's not, it dries down really quickly, and I think that's what makes this such a brilliant formula, because it doesn't settle into any, if you get, I've got Becca under eye colour corrector, and it's a really good shade for me, and it, you know, I almost don't need concealer when I use it, but it's so creamy that it does tend to settle into fine lines. This doesn't. It goes on like a cream, but it blends out to almost like a powder-like texture, which stops it from settling into fine lines. They've really thought about the formula. It's absolutely great. Now, when I put this on here, I noticed looking back at the video, it didn't really blot out my discoloration up here. And there was a reason for that, and it had nothing to do with the colour corrector. It was to do with the concealer I was putting over the top, which was too light. And I used shade 7 in Magic Away. Now, I did have a sample of shade 8, but it had a tiny bit left. And when I went back in, and I covered it in shade 8, it was perfect. So I don't have any more shade 8 left, but I've got this sample card of all the dark ones. So I'm going to do a little bit of mixing with my shade 7 to get the right shade to actually cover that. And I think you'll see a big difference. It does actually work, and it does colour correct. The shade 6 under my eyes worked well, so I'm going to stick with that. And I'm just dabbing this in with my fingers, and now I'm going to go in with shade 6, Magic Away, under my eyes. Okay, shade 6. Just dabbing that round. And then I'm going to blend this in with the beauty blender.
Wait, is it already started?
Yeah, it started.
Oh,
I might go now, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna go now.
Right, just hold on a second, because my son is about to go out, and I just need to have a chat with him, and I will be right back. Okay, I've mixed shade 7 and shade 9 on the back of my hand, which should actually be a better cover up for this, and I think you can see a difference. It was just that my concealer that I was using was too light. As I've said before, I needed a 7.5 Magic Away, but I am going to be getting the shade 8, because that definitely is a better cover up completely for me, and then I can cover this one up as well. I'm just going to dot that in with my hands, and I think you can see that definitely works a lot better on my skin tone. Shade 7 is just that little bit too light for my skin tone. It probably will be fine in the winter, but as I said, if you've got mixed race Asian, you tend to react very quickly. I don't go out a lot in the sun, but I don't need to, because I just tan really quickly. So that's definitely a better cover up for me. And now I'm going to show you how to neutralize the Pixi Woo method of how to neutralize a bit of the yellow in a, if you've got a warm undertone, but like me, it's not as warm as a lot of other people, and your foundation tends to look too yellow, but you have got some warm in your undertone. This is how to do it. It's a brilliant tip. Thank you so much, Sam Chapman. It's a lifesaver. Right, first of all, I'm just going to set under my eyes with the light airbrush. This is in shade 1. I only use this for under my eyes, just to brighten under my eyes, and I use a bit on my eyelids as well, but otherwise you can use it to highlight the center of your face as well, but I'm just not going to do that for now, because I'm going to show you this hack. So that is my eyes set. Okay, now Charlotte doesn't do undertones for her powders because they're setting powders. But if you get a foundation powder that is in the opposite undertone to the one that you have in your foundation, it will neutralize some of the yellow in your foundation. So you get, so the tip is that, so in MAC I'm NC35. The tip is to get an NW powder foundation to set your foundation with. And you do have to go, it's not like, I can't go to NW35, it's way too dark, because the NW foundations are darker. So basically you have to go and try it out, but basically I am NW25, or possibly even in the winter NW20. I've got NW25 and I'm going to do half my face, and I'll just do this half, and I think hopefully you'll be able to see how it just takes some of the yellow off the foundation. I'm going to be putting it on as though it's a setting powder. What you don't want to do is put it on like a powder foundation, because then you've got a full coverage foundation on and then you're putting another foundation on top of it. It's going to look too cakey. So you really need to apply it lightly as though you're using it as a setting powder. Okay, that's the only thing you need to remember about this. Okay, so this is MAC Studio Fix Powder Plus Foundation, and I'm using NW25. So hopefully this is going to take some of the yellowness, and I'm just going to put it over this side of the foundation, and you can see, hopefully, I don't know how much this is going to show up, but hopefully it's going to show you that it can take some of the yellowness away from the foundation. It's just counteracting that yellowness. And making it more realistic to my skin tone. I'll put some over the centre of my nose so that you can see it. Such a brilliant tip from Pixi Woo. And it works. I think you can see that. It just takes that yellow tinge away. I'm going to take a photo of this as well, because it may show up better on camera than it does on video. My eye is watering so much, sorry guys. Right, let me see if the picture captures it a little bit better. Okay, it's subtle, but I think you can probably see it. It just takes that yellowness. So I'm just going to do the rest of my face with this powder, and hopefully you'll see it even more. So if you're similar skin tone to me and you get a powder foundation in a cool, for a cool toned, don't forget MAC confuses you because they call it neutral warm for people with cool undertones. It's the opposite. That's where it gets confusing in MAC. If you're warm toned, the foundations are neutral cool, and if you're cool toned, the foundations are neutral warm. And it's all to do with the fact that it was designed by makeup artists for makeup artists, and they're not talking about the complexion you're applying it to, but the shade of the actual foundation. So if you're warm, you counteract that warmth. If you're cool, you counteract that coolness by, so neutral warm is pink undertoned in MAC, and neutral cool is warm yellow undertones. It's just very confusing. But any other powder foundation, if you go for a 1-4 cool tones, then you will counteract the yellow in your foundation. And I knew that would work beautifully. I wish my eyes would stop watering. I'm really sorry, guys. So I'm going to finish off my look and I'll be right back and I'll tell you what I put on. I'll see you in a minute. And I'll see if there's any other questions that you asked that I haven't yet answered. Okay, that's me done. I put on today, whenever my eyes are very sensitive, I will put a full list of what I used in the description bar. So have a look at that. But whenever my eyes are really sensitive, I like to use Charlotte's Eyes to Mesmerise because they've got vitamin E and they're quite soothing. So I use Star Gold. And then because my eyes were quite puffy and my hooded lids were looking really puffy, I used her Sophisticate palette. And then to further deepen the outside, to really get rid of the hood and to make my eyes pop, I used Colour Chameleon in Smoky Emerald to kind of contrast with the golds and browns. And then on my lips, I used Super Size Me Lip Cheat and my favourite all time, which has just been released, In Love with Olivia. Before that it was Bitch Perfect, but this is slightly darker and suits my skin tone better. And then on my cheeks I used Pillow Talk blush, and obviously Film Star Bronze and Glow. So I hope you've liked this. Now, just before I finish and before my eyes stream completely, although we know that the foundation ain't gonna budge, I wanted to finish off by, and I will put timestamps. I don't know why I'm saying this at the end, because if you've given up on me, you won't hear this. But I will put timestamps. I'll perhaps put a voiceover at the beginning and say that. Who is this foundation for? Okay, I will tell you first of all who it's not for. If you don't like full coverage foundation, it doesn't look cakey, but if you're somebody that doesn't like or doesn't need full coverage foundation and you have very dry skin, then I would say that this foundation is not for you, okay? Because it's not drying, it's not too drying, because I do have very dry cheeks. But if you're very dry all over and you don't want full coverage, you're not going to like it. I would imagine, I may be wrong, but I imagine because Sam and Nikki often say they've got very dry skin, that this is not something you're going to see featured on their videos a lot. They tend to use Light Wonder. However, the people it's for, if you've got combination skin and you find that your foundation starts to kind of get slidey on your nose, don't be put off by my earlier thing, because I had been asleep and it was 12 hours on. It really doesn't move. And if you live in a hot climate and you find that your foundation starts to sweat, this is definitely the foundation for you. Bear in mind, with full coverage foundation, just because you've got a full coverage foundation in front of you doesn't mean that you have to slap it on and do a mask-like face, you know. Not putting anyone down, but Nikki Tutorials uses very full coverage foundation. She's gonna love this, but you don't have to put it on like that. You can actually mix it with magic cream. You can put it on in a light way, so actually you feel like you've got nothing on your skin. And that's the beauty of full coverage, is you don't need as much. So I love this foundation, and actually now that I've got getting into the hang of using less, which I did use too much yesterday because I didn't realize it was going to be that full coverage, and using my little, you know, thing with the powder, I love it. I absolutely love it. And look, my eyes are streaming, and it's just, some of this, don't forget, is concealer, but when it starts, it's taken off a little bit of the magic away, but when it starts running over my foundation, you see it just rolling over the foundation. The foundation doesn't move. and my eyes constantly stream with this hay fever. So I would definitely recommend, if you've got oily skin, it's brilliant. If you're oily and you've got dry in certain areas, don't worry, I am dry here. It doesn't dry them out to the point that it looks really bad. It's definitely a must for combination skin. Okay, so any more questions, please leave them below. One question I had was, what foundation is the closest to it that I've used? There isn't really anything that close to it, but the closest one I would say is MAC Pro Longwear Waterproof Foundation. That's the closest that I've found to this one. I'm so grateful for you all watching my channel, and for all of you new subscribers, hello and welcome to the Ali Pallies. This isn't something I dreamt up. It's the people that followed me called themselves Ali Pallies, and it's stuck. I'm so grateful for every one of your comments, and if I haven't replied to you yet, I will. As long as it's in my notification box and YouTube are not messing with me, you will get a reply from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon with some more looks using this foundation, more mixes, flawless filter, magic cream. I'm also going to try and make it into a BB cream by mixing it with magic cream. I am going to be testing this all throughout the week. So stay tuned to Ali M's Beauty, and please tell your friends. I want to try and get up to 1,000 subscribers so that I can continue doing my live videos on YouTube, which I'm not allowed to do anymore until I reach 1,000. So take care. See you all soon. Love you all. Mwah!